Welcome to She Sells Radio. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today. This is probably one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done, and I have absolutely fallen in love with the woman who I'm bringing to you today. So I'm super excited to introduce you to her. Before I do, I want to invite you to something really special that I'm doing, and I'm just super excited today about a lot, but I'm really excited about this. I'm hosting a live masterclass coming up at the beginning of February called Your First Six Figures. And this masterclass is for the woman who is ready to break through six figures in 2021. So whether you've been kind of close to crossing the line and you haven't quite been there yet, or maybe you're just starting out, but you're like, I'm going for the gold this year and I'm going to hit six figures. I'm going to be teaching you everything that I know about how to do it, but how to do it in a way without burnout, without overwhelm, how to do it in a way where when you're selling and acquiring new clients, it's actually leveraging how you were naturally wired as a woman, so that you can grow your business and make more money and serve people and become the best and greatest version of yourself in a way that's sustainable and fun and enjoyable. So you want to get registered for that. You can go to elisearcher.com/six-figures to find out more, grab your seat, and I hope I will see you there. So let's talk about today's interview. So like I said, this episode became one of my favorite that I've done so far on the podcast. And my guest today, part of why she's so cool is that she was in sales before, and this makes her sound older than she is. It's not, it's not that, but she was in sales before it was like super, super common for women to be in sales. And so if you're in sales, especially corporate sales, you know, there's still challenges you butt up against with probably sexism and, you know, things don't that aren't quite as easy for you, perhaps, as some of your male counterparts. But my guest today, Trisha Dempsey, had it harder, way harder than a lot of us who maybe started off in sales a little bit later. And she talks about her experience selling and how she was successful selling in a super male-dominated industry by doing things her way. And I love her story. She then went on to create and build an 8-figure business while battling cancer, while raising her young daughter. And she tells us how she did it. Her story is so inspiring. And I'm just, like I said, I'm so impressed with her. So let me tell you, I'm going to share with you some from her official bio, and then we'll get into the episode today. Trisha Dempsey is the founder and CEO of Thrive Her and is on a mission to help female entrepreneurs create purpose-fueled business and lives they love. Tricia has transformed her own career from a 7th grade school teacher to an 8-figure CEO. Before starting Thrive Her, Tricia started, scaled, and sold her IT staffing firm, which was recognized for being the #2 fastest growing staffing firm in the nation and a 3-time Inc. 5000 company. During her 20-year career, Tricia has coached over 5,000 women, helping them take their career or business to the next level while redefining success on their own terms. And that is what we are all about here at She Sells. It is you becoming successful, hitting your money targets, building your business, growing your sales in a way that is on your terms, that feels right to you. So that's part of why I love Tricia so much, is she did it in the way that we are super passionate about here. So I can't wait for you to get to know Tricia and learn from her. I know you're going to really, really enjoy this episode and want to connect with her on social. So do that. And then remember too, if you want to get registered for our upcoming masterclass, go to elisearcher.com/six-figures. And that's all spelled out. So it's the letter 6, SIX, figures.com, elisearcher.com/six-figures. Get signed up for our masterclass and get ready to enjoy an incredible conversation with my guest, Trisha Dempsey. Trisha, welcome to She Sells Radio. I mean, like I was telling you in the pre-chat, you know, one of the things that is most exciting to me about this conversation with you is with a lot of my guests, it's easy to pick a singular lane because they've done kind of one thing and they've focused on that their whole lives. And so it's like, it's an easy path. With you, you have such a diversity of not only business background, but just challenges you've overcome in your life and how you've risen above those. And I personally feel like I've already learned so much from you, just getting to know you before this interview and reading about you. And you've accomplished so many incredible things that I have a hunch we're going to need to do this in probably 2 or 3 parts because you have such a wealth of knowledge to share. But that's a long way to say, I'm so excited you're here. I'm so grateful just to have the opportunity to learn from you and to share your wisdom with my audience as well. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So, one of the things that I think would be helpful, just for some context, if a listener has not come across your work or Thrive Her yet, or what you're doing, fill us in. I'd love to hear more of your backstory. And if you can take us as far back as makes sense for you,
Yeah.
but some of your backstory, what got you to where you are, some specifics in terms of your sales journey as well. And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So I'll go all the way back to, graduating from college. I was a 7th grade school teacher in Gwinnett County, and I did that for about 5 years. Married a tech guy and really loved technology. And so I decided I was going to make this venture in the summertime between when I finished school and when I went back with my contract in August to put myself on the job market. And I was specifically looking for a sales job. So my dad had been in sales for, 30 years. And here's what he told me. He's gonna be horrified when he listens to this podcast. Here's what he told me. He said, "Listen, at my company, Trish, we would hire you as a salesperson." He hired my brother. So and this is a big Fortune 500 company. He said, "But at our company, we don't really like to hire female salespeople." Well, why, Dad? Because we don't want men traveling with women. Now, this was back in the late 90s. Is that crazy?
Wow.
This is back in the late 90s. So we do not like men traveling with women. And we feel like it just keeps the peace at home when we just have an all male sales force. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And then when I stepped into sales, I thought I'm either going to have to get on a plane, which I did not want to do all day long, or I'm going to be sitting behind a desk doing multi-level marketing kind of sales. But I ended up landing a job in technical recruiting back in the late 90s. That was so hot. Literally, if you could, they said if you could fog a mirror, they would hire you in sales to do that. But I really pitched myself into a sales role in this way. I've always been a winner. I can give you my whole track record of being a winner. And I do 2 things well. I actually will meet and exceed every expectation you have, and I'm a great teammate. And if you want that kind of salesperson on your team, let's do it. And I did that actively for a whole summer, and I had 3 offers at the end of the summer and took a job into technical recruiting. One of the best decisions ever. Loved it early on. And what I found was it was such a transferable skill from teaching. I mean, I was influencing people to do things a certain way. I was managing, this classroom environment, and I transitioned to managing clients and what their expectations were. And it was a fairly easy. I also worked for a guy who was a IBM sales exec for 30 years. So I learned some really good core skills in sales. And then I had a baby. And this because you're in the middle of you're in the middle of this life right now. I had a baby, and I was getting to the office at 7 o'clock, coming home at 7 p.m. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. Wow. So I went in and resigned one day and decided I was 29 years old, I think at that time, I was going to start my first company because I was going to have my own schedule and my own freedom. And I wanted to be a mom, and I wanted to be a full-time worker too.
I actually want to pause you there if I can, because I think that's, so how long did it take you to come to that? You strike me as someone who kind of makes a decision and goes, it took you months.
6 months. I was home with her for 3 months, and then I went back to work for 3 months, and I was and then I would be in tears every night because she was going to bed at 7:30. You can relate to this, right? She was going to bed at 7:30. I was getting home at 7. And I was like, this is not the life that I'm going to have. This is just not the life. And so I went in and resigned, and my boss, who had sold his company, said, "Hey, listen, I'll give you money. Let's go start a company together." Because I had made him a ton of money as a salesperson. Wow. He knew I was going to be able to do that. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I was making all the money. I think we did $3 million the year that I resigned, and I did 2.7 of it. And this was in post 9/11. It was a very challenging time. You probably were in sales at that time too. It was so challenging to be in sales. And in the midst of that, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. My daughter was, at that time, 2.5 years old. And I came home one day and just said to my husband, I don't think I can stay with these guys any longer. I'm stressed about that. And I'm stressed about, trying to get the business up and running. And I went in the next day and resigned and started my own company.
So I want to pause and ask, because in those moments you've had these two, well, many, but from what your story here, these two real salient moments where it sounds like you said, I know I have to do something differently. What I'm hearing you say, I want you to tell me if this is right, is you didn't necessarily have much of a plan yet from there. You just knew you had to do something
I,
different and you took the leap of faith.
oh my
Am I
gosh,
hearing you right?
I tell people all the time I would not recommend doing it the way that I did it. It just is the way it ended up unfolding. But I'm pretty decisive. So I'm high decision making. And once I've decided that I'm going to be successful or I'm going to make a move, I know I'm going to be able to do both. And I have my own back. I've seen myself be successful. I see myself as a winner. I see myself as somebody who will always be successful. And so I've had my own back belief wise for a very long time. And it was just, I knew I was going to make the move because, you know, I am very long suffering with people in terms of loving them and caring about them, but almost to a fault. That was an early thing that I did as a business owner is, you know, I loved my business partners. I didn't want to leave them. I knew they'd be very hurt when I decided to do it. I had warned them multiple times and said, hey, something's got to change. But once I made the decision, and Jeff knows this too, my husband knows this too. Once I made the decision, I was gone.
Right.
I mean, I went in and resigned that day, and my business partner said, I see no reason for you to stay and do anything. We don't want you here if you're going to go and compete against us.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And we didn't have non-competes at that time. So I could literally go the next day and set up my own company and do my own thing. And that's exactly what I did.
You did. How did you, so I want to hear more of the story, but I also want to ask, how did you learn to have your own back belief wise? Because I think for many of us, the problem that comes up, especially when we want to do something big or make a big move, is we can fall into self-doubt, and we can almost become the one who's convincing ourselves and arguing for our limitations. Has that been something that's always been natural for you? Was it a learned skill? How did you do it?
It's going to sound so corny when I say it. And it really was this simple for me. But I mean, it's been like this since I've been like in the 7th grade and just first decided that I was going to be competitive and do sports. Is I found somebody who did it, that I could see evidence that it could be done well. I studied them and everything about how they went about doing it. And then I literally visualized myself doing it every single day. And that is going to sound overly simplified to your audience, but it really was like, oh, it's possible. I know I can see myself doing it. And then I just get up and become that person every day. It is really a be, then do, then see, that kind of process for me, for sure.
Well, I don't think it's overly simplified at all. And I love that, because I think how many of us are doing that? You know, if someone is thinking that's too simple, I would challenge them with, are you doing that?
Well, and here's what happens with a lot of women that I coach is that they find somebody doing it and then they say, I don't have that Tricia has. I don't have that Elyse has. I'll never be able to do that. And you've got to find your own version of that. The important thing for you to do is be inspired that it's actually possible. And then I think the only way to journey to it is to be your most authentic self. Like, be really who you are in all your quirkiness, and show up every day being who you are. And so that's been my secret for, I don't know, for every transition and every journey possible. And it's not always been, you know, without its own share of bumps, but that's been how I roll, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So take us to, okay, so you've just made this decision to split with your business partners. You've got cancer.
Yeah.
Your husband is probably like, what in the world?
I was bald as a Q-tip the day I told him I'm going to go in and resign tomorrow. And I was 6 months into chemo. I had 8 surgeries ahead of me. And so then you get in the mindset, which this has been the least effective that I am, is when I'm in a mindset of, this has to work. I'm so desperate for it to work. It has to work. And when I find that I'm in that mindset, then I overwork versus creating results with the thoughts that I have. I'm in heavy action, and that's just my natural propensity. But when I'm in like, this has to work energy, it's a very stressful energy for me. But that's where I was. So at the end of a year, we hit 7 figures in the first year, which was crazy.
Amazing. With 8 surgeries, with all of
Yeah.
that. No doubt. Yeah. I mean, I would imagine you could only work a couple hours a
I
day, or you just pushed yourself.
I pushed myself really hard. And to me, I say a lot of times it kind of saved my life because it really got me away from thinking about cancer every day and
Mm.
into the mindset of I'm creating. So when I'm in creating something mindset, that is just such good energy to be in.
Yeah.
And a year later we were at $1 million. 2 years later we were at $3 million, and it goes up and up from there. So yeah, it was a crazy time.
That's
And I simply did my sales strategy, because I know this is a sales podcast. My sales strategy has always been this, and it's going to sound overly simplified again. It is meet more people, make friends, find out what they need, make an offer to help them.
mm.
And I call it advocate building. So one of my core values at Agile was creating advocates, and we define these as partnerships between people that were passionate about one another's success. So like Elyse, like the little bit that we know each other, I feel like you and I will be advocates for each other, which means
Yes.
if I really love what you do, then I want to see you be successful, whether I ever benefit from it ever.
Mm.
So I'll tell people about your podcast. I'll tell them to follow it. I'll encourage people to get involved with your programs, and it won't benefit me at all. And I've just always been like that. And so in turn, when I ask a favor, if I called you one day and said, Elyse, I have a favor. I noticed that you're connected to so-and-so. Would you mind making? Of course I will, Trish. And so I built that business one advocate relationship at a time. And we valued advocacy so much that we actually had an event called the Advocate of the Year, and we would give awards out to people who had made a difference in our business. And we'd quantify the difference that they'd make in our business financially or relationship wise or whatever. And we'd give them awards. And that's how and then that became something we became known for. So people were like, hey, are you, we called them Agile advocates. So, people would say like, hey, are you an Agile advocate? I mean, it became an identity for people who ended up helping us grow our business because we recognized it that way.
Wow. Wow. I love the simplicity of that. I think the beautiful thing about all of this is we can way overcomplicate it, and to see a woman who's scaled to, not 6, not 7, but 8 figures, which we'll talk about in a moment. And to hear that it's those simple principles, I think is just so grounding. It's so grounding. It's like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to literally go, like you said, make friends, find out what they need, see if you can help, become an advocate. I want to hone in because I think you also have had a level of intentionality with how you sell and what you do. And you've shared this with me in a previous conversation just about your planning process and like the little things and the details. Could you share with us maybe 1 or 2 of just the little things that helped you excel in your sales roles, whether when working for a corporation or running your own business?
One of the major things, and I would attribute this to most of my success in the staffing world, which is I ended up serving on the board of Women in Technology. I served in like in a small, minute way. Like I was on a committee one year. That was my first sales opportunity. And I had to go get women to get nominated for a Woman of the Year in Technology award. And I served on that committee and just did it with excellence. And so I used it in my mind. I was saying, oh my gosh, how can I use this as an opportunity to then borrow the brand equity of an organization that already has great brand equity and associate my brand with it and elevate both of our brands. So I was on that committee. This was kind of brilliant now that I think back about it. I was on this committee. I had to go. So I called, like, for example, the CEO of McKesson, okay, in Atlanta, Pam Buer. She was fantastic. McKesson didn't want to nominate her because the award didn't seem big enough for Pam. So Pam and my daughter, Pam's son and my daughter went to Montessori school together. I found this out, and I would like hang until Pam would pick our son up. And then I found her one day and I was like, listen, you have to get nominated for this. Your people are not letting it go through. And I'm telling you, it's a big deal. This is going to be 1,000 people at the Fox. You're going to want to win this award. I think you can. We need to get you nominated. She was like, of course, let's get me nominated. We became friends, and then we did business with McKesson. But I took all of the women that I got nominated. I think there was maybe 14 or 15 like C-level CIOs in Atlanta. And then you might remember this, the Bell South Classic was in Atlanta. So I found another event that was very well thought of in Atlanta. And then I put together a breakfast for all my nominees for the Bell South Classic, invited them to breakfast, and then we all walked the course together. So I found these, like, to me, I feel like women really, especially when I sell to women primarily, women really like the connection of community, and they're willing to do things that are a little bit different than, they don't necessarily want to go golf for 18 holes every week, but they will go do something like that where they're getting a chance to meet other women. And I positioned it as like, meet your peers and get to know people. And, so I was always in the mindset of what's in it for them.
Yeah.
So serving on that, serving on the board was a huge thing. And then finding opportunities. Another one was because I was a breast cancer survivor, we got really involved with Susan G. Komen, and I did an annual event called Agile on the Green. Now this became something our company was just widely known for in Atlanta, but I would invite all the CIOs to play as VIP guests. So again, like tapping into like, hey, Mr. CIO of AT&T or whatever, come play in this golf tournament. I need to raise a lot of money for breast cancer. All you got to do is show up and play golf. I would get to know those people personally. We'd have a VIP event. They would get to interact with my people for the day, and then we did business with them. And between those two things, those were the two things that did everything for our company in terms of opening doors and opportunities.
Wow. I mean, it's, as I think about what you did and what you're sharing there, it seems like a lot of it boils down to visibility. So thinking about I love how you talked about borrowing brand equity. So who do I need to be visible in front of? How can I do it in a different way than just picking up the phone and calling them, asking them to buy my stuff?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And here's one more that is really, I mean, this is, I'm struggling in the online world because it's done so differently. Right now I'm in the online space, but I had one opportunity very first year at Agile. There was a magazine in Atlanta called Tech Links. Mm-hmm. They were very well known. Again, the guy came to me and said, do you want to put a full page ad? I think we can really launch your business from Tech Links. And I was happy to do a full page ad, but you had to do it with consistency. So I had to buy it for the entire year or nobody would know who I was. But the thing I negotiated with that is access into a VIP reception with all CIOs every single month. So I told them I would buy it. Listen, I wrote a check for like $5,000 or $7,000. I forget what the number was, but it was significant first year business money. Wrote that check, did it in Tech Links, and then came to that thing every day. And they would be like, how big are you? Your company seems really big. Is your company big? And I was like, there's like 2 of us, this kind of thing. So real visibility, but with things that were really highly respected by people who I was selling to, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about just this different approach to sales. And I think back to when I first got into the sales coaching space about 5 years ago, I had one client who had paid me $300. I was kind of like you. I was like, I'm out with what I'm doing right now. I got to make a leap. I had one client who paid me $300. I was like, that's proof of concept. I'm going to leave my 6-figure corporate job and go do this. And it was kind of that same energy of, I have to make this work. So all I knew how to do was market myself because I had a marketing background. So I went about like just positioning myself and marketing myself online through videos as being a sales coach and sales mentor. And very quickly, I started getting a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, like, I can see you have a ton of experience. I can see you know what you're doing. I'd love to hire you as my coach. And it's like, I actually don't. I have one client. I made a presentation for him, but I'm glad you think I know what I'm doing. And sure, I can help you with your sales. And and of course, much like you, right? Like you build it as you go, and everyone ended up being a happy client. But yeah, it's like that positioning and the borrowed brand equity, I think, is so important from what you just said. And I think that's something a lot of us aren't thinking about.
Because, I think that what I've learned being in the online space is everybody focuses on the marketing. So the Facebook ads and the live streams and the blah, 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 everybody focuses on the marketing. And what I found, and I think you and I are talking about this, in the last 2 weeks, I've changed my approach to getting back to just one-on-one outreach every Sunday. I'm sending 15 emails to CEOs every Sunday. And it will be the best. I mean, I've generated more revenue in the last 2.5 weeks than I had all during COVID, and just doing this simple strategy. And I think I'll double my business in the last 45 days of the year with this simple strategy. So even though everybody wants to market and spend money on Facebook ads, and I've spent all that, you have to be really, you have to know your stuff and be very crisp about your message. But I've gotten back to like, hey, would you like to get on the phone and let me, talk to you about what your goals are right now? And CEO to CEO, people are really responding to that message. And then when I get them on the phone, everybody's saying yes, with very few exceptions. And people are making it work in their budget and writing me checks before the end of the year. It's been mind blowing.
Okay. So we can't just say that and skim over it. We have to go. You just said so many things that I like. More revenue in the last 45 days of the year than all during COVID, and your simple email approach. So I want to hear more about this. So it's 15 emails every Sunday to CEOs. Tell us what you're saying in those. Is it like you said, like, do you want to talk about business?
I'm going into LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm already connected to a lot of these people because they've been people that I've known for years, so I think maybe we've got to give you some context. So maybe we've got 6,500 or so contacts on LinkedIn. Maybe about 200 of them are CEOs. So I'm going into those CEOs and I'm saying, hey, it's been a long time since we connected. I would love to learn more about what you're doing in your business going into 2021. If you're open to having a conversation, I would offer a 1-hour free consultation, powerful coaching consultation, or whatever I'm calling it, and trying different messages, right? So, and if you'd like to talk about your business goals, I'd be open to that. And then I'd love to explore where we can take it from there. That little message has gotten a lot of response. And then here's another one I posted the other day and said, hey, my women are struggling with confidence. I'm sure your women feel the same way, right? We all struggle with this. And I'd love to do some interviews with extremely confident business owners. If you have one that you really admire, tag them. And then I've reached out to those women and said, hey, you were tagged as a person that's extremely confident. I would love to set up a 30-minute interview. I'm putting together a masterclass on confidence. Can I borrow some time with you?
Wow. Like
those two things, that's as simple as it's been. It's like a paragraph. But people have really responded to that and then are very flattered by being tagged by, their teammates or another vendor or whatever. And so I've gotten, I'm probably doing somewhere around 3 to 5 of those consult calls every week. And I was 2.5 weeks in at the end of last week and signed 100K in those 2.5.
Celebration. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And one of those cases, and two of those cases was just increasing the retainer I already had with existing clients, because people are like, can you help me with this too? And I'm like, hey, this seems to be an issue. We're not moving the needle. How would you like some more help with that? And they're like, yes. So
amazing.
I think there's people who are really, really good at Facebook ad marketing and all of the things that you can do with reaching audiences and stuff. But at the end of the day, and I heard Grant Cardone say this recently in a podcast I was listening to, like, sales is a contact sport. It's no meaningful check has ever really been written without there being a meaningful conversation with somebody. And so I think just talking to people, finding out what they need, making an offer to help them has been the right strategy for me in these COVID days, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious too to hear from you, Tricia, because again, you've got that unique perspective of scaling all the way to 8 figures. Side question. So it was your business that you created on your own. Was that the business that you scaled and then eventually exited, right? And you mentioned in the pre-chat, I wanted to find out for you the difference between scaling to 6, then 7 to 8 figures, and kind of what each of those thresholds was like, because I'm sure there are differences, but you also said something that kind of piqued my interest. I'm going to let you talk more about that. But what have you seen the difference?
I was sharing with you, I don't think the strategy's been much different from 6 to 7 to 8. The biggest difference, so 0 to 6, was primarily reaching back out to clients I had done business with before over the last, 10 years in staffing, and just saying, hey, I now have my own new company. Would you be open to doing business with me? Like, that is as simple as it took to get to 6 figures. From 6 to 7 figures, it was expansion of my client base with that same exact strategy. So it was getting to know more people, showing up and serving on these boards. Most of the people that were on the boards with me ended up becoming customers. So, they would work with me on committees or boards, and then they would say I would say hey, we never talk about what we do for a living. Like, do you need any help with these things? And they're like, yes, of course. Okay, there's a vendor list, but wink, wink, I'm going to get you on the vendor list. Don't worry about it. Let me get you fast track through that. So 6 to 7 was just building more relationships with people, and then serving first, asking second. That's been my mantra from the beginning. So serving on a committee with them, helping them make an introduction that's meaningful for them, nominating them for an award, like whatever the thing was, like finding some way to make a deposit in their bank account first before I then would say and I would do it really nonchalant, like, hey, we never talk about what we do for a living. Why don't we have a business call one day? Maybe we just go to lunch and talk a little business. And they're like, of course. But this is after, we've we could have done a homeless shelter event or a, food pantry event at Christmas time, or, served on a committee and put together an award show or whatever. We had done something where they saw my character, and then it was time to be able to make the request. And then 7 to 8 was teaching other people that simplicity of that process.
So yeah, go ahead.
So that it was really how do you make advocates once you get on site? And then how do you get those advocates to help you open this door and then that door and then this door and then that door? And how do you do it really intentionally, where you're constantly giving them the opportunity to tell you back what difference you've made in their lives? And then you're like, hey, I'd love to make this kind of difference in multiple people's lives. Could I get an introduction to this department? But it always was the simplicity of that. We did not have, staffing doesn't have a sophisticated marketing mindset in general. It's pretty much like cold calling. It's very Wolf of Wall Street kind of feeling about sales. And people love to come work for us because we didn't have that philosophy. We didn't say, get on the phone and do 50 cold calls a day. We said, get out in the community, serve, be a part of something, not just one time during the year. Every single month, you show up every single month. If we know where our buyers are, then you just need to show up and serve every single month. And that's how we did it.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. Tell us, and yeah, I'm going to have you back because this there's a million more things I want to ask you about. So thank you so much for the wealth of wisdom you've shared. I'm curious, your kind of piece of advice, if you had one opportunity to share with a woman who's maybe a little earlier in her sales career and journey, maybe she's an entrepreneur, maybe she's working for a corporation, but she has the vision of, really empowering herself financially and working her way to her first 6 figures and breaking beyond. What would be your number one piece of advice for her?
Yeah, I have so many things, but I'll start with, you got to believe in yourself first. You've just got to believe you've got to look back at your track record. You've got to make a list of your successes. You've got to look at the proof of the value you've already created. And you've got to be able to feel confident and bring that energy to the conversation you have with people. And then I think the second thing is, we are just relationship builders by nature. It is what we're geared to do. And we end up being nurturers of those relationships by nature. Just show up and do that in a business setting. It's not much different than showing up and doing that with your girlfriends. So I would say just belief in yourself, and then show up and build relationships, and do not hide behind a social media post, a live stream, a email sequence, a fancy sales page, all of the things. If you in that 0 to 6 figures, it's really important. It's about you and your energy showing up for sure.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you so much. Tricia, tell us, clearly this is why women hire you to coach them. So tell us about your coaching program, Passport. I know you've got something coming up as well. So I want to know where women can connect with you, and then also how they can get involved working with you if they want to.
Sometime in Q1, probably in February-ish timeframe, we will open up our enrollment for our Passport Coaching membership, which is a group coaching mastermind where we get together every single week. I teach a topic at the beginning every month, and we do real coaching on real topics and move women really forward in their business every single week. And that program is going to open up sometime in February of 2021. So be on the lookout for that. And I've got this link, thriveher.com/passports-waitlist. I know you'll put this in the show notes too, but if you will just go out there, sign up for our wait list, you'll start to get information about it, but that'll give you a lot of information and some freebies that you can download and get access to now, so that you can get involved when we open it up for enrollment.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, I highly encourage everyone, go check out the program, get deeper involved with Tricia and what she's doing. You're a role model. You're a mentor. You're someone who has paved the path and trusted your gut and done the scary things that show others what's possible. And so if you're someone who's listening and you want to make a big leap and you say, I need to see someone, I need to look at someone who's done what I want to do, look at Tricia, follow her, connect with her, let her be your belief system for you, and just start to step into that own belief for yourself and see what's possible. So thank you so much for who you are, for what you've done, and for taking the time to share it with us this morning. It's been
Thank you
phenomenal.
for this amazing platform that you've created for women who we all feel unsure about selling. And I know this is going to help thousands, millions of women. So thank you for creating the platform too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's my honor. All right, Tricia, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.